Welcome to Nerdindex. Today we're talking about our experience playing Clair, Obscur Expedition 33.
In short, if you aren't turned off by turn-based games and want an intriguing story, you should give it a shot.
There will be spoilers all over this video, so don't watch it if you plan to play the game yourself. The music was amazing. It was really evocative and super varied. Plus, I feel like French is a beautiful language when sung, and I never got sick of certain tracks that would be used multiple times, such as when fighting the mimes. Like, even though I hated fighting the mimes themselves for their stupid giggles and distress noises, I was still kind of happy to hear that, upbeat French song that would come on every time. The music was really fun.
There was a ton of diversity in the tracks, which surprised me, and all the tracks were really good. I found myself getting lost in fights listening to the music, causing me to miss a few audio cues for dodging and parrying attacks.
The aesthetics are such a cool dystopian vibe without going full steampunk, but still feeling adjacent to it.
The main Old French layout was really cool, but we also got to explore a ton of unique landscapes that were really amazing. I stopped to look around for a bit every now and then, just because it was so much fun to look at. Did you have any favorite locations?
They were all really visually dynamic, but I think that the area that looked like you were underwater was the best, and I'm sure everybody's seen it from the trailer.
The coral place was really cool, but also where the desert coliseum was probably my favorite visually, minus the end areas.
The parts of the game that are dopamine-inducing aren't very accessible to the backseat gamer, however. While I enjoyed watching the story moments, the turn-based combat system wasn't something that I got anything out of. I know for the person holding the controller that aspects like executing a perfect parry would have been really rewarding, and some fight sequences were extra hard, so it would increase the disparity of time between the balance of story and combat.
I found the combat to be really engaging. At times it brought back the timing rhythm of playing a game like Sekiro with the parrying and long strings of attacks, and almost as unforgiving at some fights.
My favorite characters were Esquier for his whimsy and Minoko for his surliness. I also enjoyed Francois for the small amount of time that he was yelling at us to get off his lawn, and the second-hand lore that we heard about him from other characters.
But Francois... Esquier and Francois' relationship was just hilarious. I really liked Ciel's playstyle the most for how she interacted with her Fortel and stacking that to do more damage, as well as other secondary effects on her abilities. She felt kind of the most diverse. Lune was my favorite characterization-wise, and Monoko always gave a good laugh when he came on screen.
Also, I don't know if it's just me, but Gustav resembled Robert Pattinson just enough that it niggled my brain the whole time. As a breath of fresh air to the gaming industry, there were basically no bugs, just some funny little visuals, like when a scene would change camera angles and everybody's hair or clothes would flop, or there was one time where we were running towards a ledge and Ciel just yeeted herself off of it.
Basically just standard game physics rendering stuff.
What was your favorite fight? Because visually, the fight I enjoyed the most was the Paintress.
The Paintress was a really cool fight, and visually really amazing. I think the Lamp Master and the Mask Keeper were my favorite bosses though. The Lamp Master was really cool and our first real boss in the game. And playing Simon Says to shoot the lamps in order was an interesting mechanic to work around, and kind of a first introduction to boss exclusive mechanics. But the Mask Keeper was one of my favorite experiences with the way that his area worked, walking up with the pops of light and sound to direct attention.
Regarding the story beats, the first part of the game set up Gustav as the main character, so I was really thrown when they killed him.
The prologue in Act 1 really set the stage for what was possible for the game to throw at you. The prologue sets up this kind of somber, hopeful experience of we're the expedition that's finally going to do something, and kind of giving the characters hope. And then the start of Act 1, you arrive at the beach, finally on the expedition, and you land on the continent where you've only heard rumors and stories about, only to meet the impossible, another human, who immediately kills most of the expedition, setting Gustav alone in the unknown world. As you were finally feeling like you were getting used to things, Act 1 ends, with the Lamp Master fight, and you beat it, only for the man from the beach to show up again and take another strike at the expedition. It was hard going from the high of succeeding in the first major boss fight, and unlocking the next area, only to immediately getting set back with that very shaking death.
And then we got a false ending, only to learn that it's a world within a painting separate from the real world, and we actually still have to fight the true last boss.
This ending of Act 2 really made me feel that most other games / media would have each one of these acts being as long, drawn-out entries for their stories, and it wouldn't have had the same effect if the story was broken up that much. This game could be one for multiple playthroughs, once on the hardest difficulty to really experience the RPG mechanics that the game had to offer, and then again on story mode to really focus and immerse myself in the world and the characters.
The Mael ending is infinitely more traumatizing, and it felt like the quote bad ending in comparison to choosing to fight as Verso in the final true moments of Act 3. But the endings forced you to pick between two equally impossible choices: staying with the final piece of your dead brother's soul, or accepting a life lived without him and letting his spirit rest.
Having initially heard the base of the two endings being Mael stays and lives her life with her friends versus having to go back to live with her rather awful family, I had initially wanted to go with Mael staying in the painting, as that ending felt like it would have been the better one. But watching it unfold was truly revealing to see how much she was falling apart, and it was very uncanny. As well as after defeating Verso, he just keeps repeating, "Let me rest and stop painting," which was a very sad moment that made you think, am I the bad guy? Was that the wrong choice? But having to leave Verso to rest and never see him again would always be a struggle as well. At least the real Renoir, that is actually her dad, isn't quite as heartless as the menacing man from the beach. In the end, Expedition 33 was a really fun and engaging game as the one playing it. I love to see more focused stories with well-written characters and a world that feels so alive. They also mentioned another faction of writers that oppose the painters, so it would be interesting to see if they could continue this world or build a future game off of it.
Let us know if you've played the game and who your favorite character was, and if you're having fun, please like and subscribe.